All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. It's been so long since I last seen you. I missed you. I hope you missed me. We are here for season 2 of the Lawyer Up with Steve-O podcast on the Boss Up Houston Network. It's my pleasure to continue to bring you some great information. Last season we had so much fun. I hope you did too. I hope you learned quite a bit. But this season is going to be a little bit different. I hope to give you a lot more information. And as you can see, I have a lot more guests. Usually I only have one person sitting next to me every now and then, or I'm by myself, but I said, I don't want to be lonely anymore. So I brought 6 people to be with me today, and we have a great show for you. We have a lot of information to give you. This show is called Pandemic and the Law. So a lot has happened since we last seen each other. A lot has happened while we last saw each other. And the big elephant in the room is the COVID-19 pandemic, and we want to talk about different issues and how it has affected our community. But we also want to give you some tidbits and some information that you can walk away with so that you can help yourselves, help your loved ones, help your friends. We just want to see everyone do well. So, it takes a community to raise a child, and, everyone on here believes that as well. So we want to band together as that community and give you these resources that you need. I feel like Santa Claus in March, but I'm trying to give you that much information to help you out. So, for those that are new to the show, let me give you a little bit of a background on me. My name is Steve Okora. I'm a practicing attorney in Fort Bend and Harris County. I've been practicing a little over 9 years. I do family law, I do business and contracts, I do estate planning, I do traffic tickets, little bit of everything under the sun. So, definitely if you have any legal issues, you can definitely feel free to reach out to me. If I don't know, or I don't do it, or I don't do what it is that you need, then I can definitely find you someone that does. And I have some attorneys here too. I always hang around attorneys, so I'm always going to bring you a fresh perspective. So, and what the show is about, what I do is I give you legal tidbits and little bits of knowledge so that it can help you in your everyday life, help you avoid some life's pitfalls, and get you out of sticky situations so that you don't need people like me. Whether or not you like attorneys or not, we're kind of essential, not as essential as medical workers, but I feel like I'm biased, we are essential. But we want to give you some information nonetheless. So, as you can see, we have several guests here, and they all have different expertises in various areas of society and the community. So, what we want to do is break them up into different topics and discuss these things, and we're gonna also allow them to comment on each other's perspective, and we're gonna have a little bit of a dialogue so that you guys can know some of the ins and outs of what's going on, some of the things maybe you didn't know that was going on during the pandemic. But before we get into all that, we're gonna take a quick commercial break because we want to make sure. And I was told that we're not going on a commercial break because we don't have time for all that right now. So we're going to get right into it. That's good for you guys. So they saved you guys from a commercial. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on my right, and I'm going to go down and tell you who these people are, and then we're going to jump right into it and get into this, everybody's information that we're going to be talking about today. So to my right, we have Farha Ahmed. She is a business and law attorney, business and probate attorney. There we go. There was something else that I was remembering. It was on the tip of my tongue. And then we have Pastor Dare, who is the author of the Big Boss series and the Who Am I series. We have Constance Jones, state officer for the Texas Black Caucus and executive VP of Community Affairs. To my left, we have Jamie Jordan, who is a family law attorney here in Fort Bend County. We have Adam Sanchez, who's a planning and zoning commissioner in Stafford and the Texas Public Works first responder. And then we have Ash Hamanrami, Stafford Municipal Board trustee. So we have a lot of great people here on stage. I'm very fortunate to have them because they have very unique perspectives on what we're going to talk about. So. The first I wanted to talk about was small businesses. Now, we all know that the effects of the pandemic on small businesses. Some of your favorite businesses didn't last. Maybe they closed up shop. Maybe they had to downsize. Maybe you know some friends and family that may have been laid off from their job. A whole lot has happened to small businesses. And, you know, unfortunately, well, fortunately, it has brought also a wave of opportunities for some people. I mean, a lot of people have jumped into their side hustles and know exactly, they found that inner passion that they've been able to do, and they've now turned it into something that, you know, they really enjoy. So, but we are going to now consult with our business attorney here, Ms. Farha Ahmed. How are you doing today?
Doing great.
Good. So,
thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely. I'm so glad to have you. So, in keeping with that that small business theme, what have been some of the highs and lows of the pandemic on small businesses?
I'm desperately trying to look at highs, at least for my small business clients. I mean, it has been devastating. And obviously it's not something that they were prepared for or predicted. And I think that we have seen businesses struggle. I mean, they're obviously dealing with rent and arrears and things like that, and evictions and all that. But if there is a certain kind of high, you would look at innovation. You would look at small businesses really trying to make sure that they can use, you know, their online business or, you know, pickup service. And, you know, for restaurants, you know, the dining issue has always been an issue in terms of looking for outdoor dining.
Yep.
And then, of course, you know, we have to pick up orders and things like the delivery systems
Yeah.
that are there. And then specifically like restaurants, and I was looking at, you know, certain communities, the weddings are huge. I think all communities now, weddings are huge.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But a lot of my clients are South Asian clients, and we were talking about different cultural communities, and that has been really devastating because you'll have a small business footprint for very small dining and really focused on catering and their banquet halls, and that's all gone. And of course, the hotels are stuck in that also.
Yeah.
Dealing with weddings and other events and conventions and things like that. And the cities have tried to come up with ideas, like in the city of Sugar Land, they had a program where if you went out and you went dining at a certain place or you bought a certain number of things, if you saved your receipt and you sent it into the city would send you gift cards for other businesses to try to kind of get you to go back and spend your money. And the city spent $250,000 of their budget for this program.
Wow.
So they pre-bought all these gift cards for these different businesses to try to help them get jump-started.
And what cities are these?
Then the city of Sugar Land was the one program that I knew. It was like a sweet program. It was really nice. How effective it was, I mean, we'll find out later.
Okay.
But the cities were struggling in you know, trying to find a way to get people to keep continuing to go out and purchase. And of course, if your wages are tanking, that's going to be very difficult.
Yeah.
And, you know, I will say we can turn the corner. I mean, you're seeing the restrictions lifting, the capacity lifting. People are getting vaccinated. They've figured out a way to safely do the things they want to do. You are having, in this country, some of the highest savings rates you've ever seen, up to 30%, unheard of. So what is that telling you? Is that people are going to be ready to spend this money. They're kind of hoarding it, right? You know, everyone's budget has been very minimal right now, not a lot of travel, things like that. And so you will see this snapback, you know, when the restrictions are dropped a little further and people feel safer to come out. You know, whether the idea is, can you make up that money that you lost, that potential revenue? That's the part that's devastating. I don't think you can.
Yeah.
But there's maybe one exception, which is what if your competition is not there? Right?
That's true.
You survived and your competition didn't survive.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things to look at. So that's, we're looking forward for the business.
And people going out. I can't go to the movie theater. I can't go, you know, to my favorite store. That's not like a big, you know, big business, big nationwide business. But influx of people just walking in and out. So, but yeah, but you know, I'm hoping now that you know with the vaccine, you know, coming and you know, people continuing to practice social distancing and masks and everything, we can get back to some semblance of normal. I mean, I don't think we're ever going to get to 100% normal. Maybe. I mean, I'm hopeful, but as long as we can get everybody educated, you know, about you know the right things to do, so that we don't have this happen again, I think that's probably going to be best. You know.
People are hopeful. I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at travel bookings and now wedding booking venues,
They're going up.
It's all full.
Yep.
And you'll see prices go up too. So
Yep.
now
Yeah.
all the bargains that you had during COVID are gone.
Yeah.
And things are going to be costing a little bit more than even pre-COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, just like everybody else, I'm hoping to see that bounce back, because I mean, we really need, our communities depend on these small businesses. So when they thrive, you know, we all do well. So it's good.
I really like that idea that Sugarland did, because here we're in Stafford. Here in Stafford, we rely on that sales tax from the small businesses, and now that they put it in their budget, or they took from their budget and put it in them, so they'll basically get some of that back because of the sales tax, and so it kind of works out. You put a little money in the ecosystem, and you kind of jumpstart it a little bit. Maybe not where it was, but you kind of you go here, like let's say Mr. Ash goes, and then I get the gift card,
Right.
and then I'll go to another business, and it just keeps on going, kind of like that Starbucks line
It's like
thing.
pollinating.
Yeah, there you go.
Exponentially. And I think it gave a signal to the business community. The city was telling them, we have your back, we're watching. We're trying to do different things. We've never had this situation before, and we're trying something to really help you, to encourage that business to kind of stay afloat and just get through this difficult time.
Very innovative.
Yeah.
Definitely. All
I
right.
was just wondering, speaking of small businesses, you know, when it first happened and the government was allowing all of the PPP loans, etc., how do you think the businesses played into that part, especially specifically particular certain small businesses? They wasn't qualified, or they didn't receive any of the money, so they were basically kind of left just out there, whereas other bigger businesses, or I guess you could say more popular businesses, they were able to receive that. So where do you think that the small businesses and the ones that received it, as it relates to those loans that the government was actually, offering the different business, but unfortunately, we all know majority of them, they were not eligible and they did not receive that money. So they had no opportunity to regroup like other folks did as far as receiving that money. So what do you think we're at as far as percentage-wise with those particular businesses versus the ones that received the money and the ones that was eligible but they didn't receive it?
I think you're right. I think in the beginning, the government was stumbling. And when that first PPP process came out, it was really badly handled. And you're right, small businesses didn't know how to access. People were scrambling. They were asking their CPA, their lawyer, whatever, how do I get this? And even nonprofits could have taken advantage of this too. And so I think the PPP came out, there was like a second version of it where more money came out. And I think then you had more people. I don't have percentage data, but I think more people were able to access it, and that saved a lot of the businesses. A lot of my small business owners said that really saved them to stay on. They had really nice landlords that were working it out and didn't evict them and realized, we want to keep you on, pay your employees, and then let's just wait till these restrictions kind of reduce, and then just hang in there. And I think that's the signal they were giving. So I think the second PPP was really helpful. But you're right, there were some businesses that just could not get it. They didn't have the banking relationship.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the complaints, that if you don't have a strong banking relationship with that, you were kind of left out in the cold or something.
Yeah, and I think, in my opinion, going forward, just even with any kind of disaster, as far as how it was initially set up, I'm thinking, speaking from a compliance standpoint and the criteria and the structure, I'm thinking the whole entire structure and process needs to be not so much the pandemic, of course, we don't want that to happen, but just the idea for a small business, period, to be able to go and be a part of and be able to receive that kind of money that the government was doing, because it was really saying all of these mom and pop shops that a lot of us that we frequent, you know, and basically they did not survive. Let's face it. They were the ones that's left out. It was shut down and they're never open again. So I just look at the core of what the whole entire process is. Yeah. And for me, in my opinion, the process needs to be restructured and regrouped to whereas if any kind of disaster, national, whatever happens, that they can actually be able to move forward in a positive manner where everybody can have an opportunity to have a part of that, to help their business to survive. Yep. That's what I think.
I think we
Yes.
all agree with you.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's all about, you know, education.
Yes.
And making sure people know exactly what's out there and what to do in these situations. You know, I think that's the biggest thing.
That was lacking too.
Definitely.
The education part of it,
Definitely,
knowing the ins and outs.
Yeah.
Like you said, everybody kind of stumbled, so yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of education, I want to go to our next topic, which we have Ash Amin-Rami covering. He is to learn from home, and it's very different having classrooms on Zoom than being there in person. A lot of parents have been so it's been a burden on them, you know, but, you know, people have had to overcome a lot of different obstacles with the educational system, and I'm sure the schools have had their own obstacles. The government has had their own obstacles. Private institutions have had their own obstacles. So, Ash, what are areas that schools have had to adapt to during the pandemic, and kind of what's been going on with that?
Absolutely. Steve, I just want to start off by saying how excited I am to be part of your show and to be among such an esteemed group of people.
Great, yeah.
This is very exciting. One of the things that happened, and it essentially happened this time last year, was we sent our kids off to school break.
Yep.
And they didn't come back for over a year. There's several students, in fact, a good majority, about a third to a half in most districts have still not come back in person.
Wow.
And when that happened, no one expected it. Our infrastructure wasn't built for it. Teachers weren't trained for it. Administration had no idea what was going on. And the school board trustees were asked, hey, what do we do now? And we were looking at guidance from the state. We were looking to the federal government, and no one had any idea what was going on. Mm-hmm. And so number one, our priority was safety. Is how do we keep our students safe? Because we have no idea what this virus is going to do. And again, this is before we knew, the survival rate, before we knew how it spread. There was a lot of unknowns at this point. How do we keep our students safe? So we all went and said, hey, we got to shut school down and let's go remote. Fortunately, we had spring break to give us some time to plan. But again, a week to plan something that is, we spent generations and generations. The way we have school today has been built over generations. And people forget that. Our teachers, the faculties, everything, facilities, everything that's done is built around teaching students face-to-face. Yep. And that was up everything. So we got our students safe. And then when we sent them all home, we realized there's other problems. And I know Attorney Jamie will touch on some of this, but there was issues with abuse and mental illness that was coming out. That's always been in society, but now we're seeing this exaggerated. And part of keeping our students safe from the virus was also, how do we keep them safe inside their own homes? And to do that, we had counselors reach out, and counselors and our teachers are phenomenal people. And again, I think the reason we got to where we are today and have somewhat survived this has been because of our teachers, our counselors, our staff. And they reached out. They know these students. For them, it's like their second parents. And a lot of our students don't have parents or don't have a family support system that a lot of us take for granted. For them, that family is their teacher. That parent is their teacher or their coach or someone at their school. Yep. And so when that person was reaching out to them over the phone and saying, hey, what do you need? How can we help you? We quickly figured out what our students need. Number one was food. So one of the beautiful things at Stafford Municipal School District that we've done since I've been on the board is every single student, regardless of income, regardless of anything, gets a free lunch, a free breakfast, and most recently, a free dinner.
Wow.
And so we were one of the only schools in the Houston area that does that. Wow. And when that went away, we're like, how do we get food to our students? Because they've come to rely on this. And so we started delivering food. We had bus drivers that were renting. And our bus drivers, again, they're out there on the front line. They volunteered for this job. We said, hey, this is a little risky. You're going to be delivering to a lot of different households. How do you feel about that? They said, we will do it. Gladly.
Wow.
And then we also allowed pickup. Now, again, not all the students have cars. Not all the students have parents that can take them to school. But the ones that did picked up food. Our drivers have counselors checking up on them. We've got teachers that are making sure that they're okay. And now we've got food to them. So how do we teach them, right? And the primary purpose of any school district is to teach and is to educate our students. And one of the challenges we had was we went remote with no infrastructure in place on how we're going to handle going remote. So we issued, and we already had a plan in place to issue iPads to every single one of our students. And the rollout was the idea is you give every single student an iPad, and again, the district pays for the iPad, and they take it home. So whether they have internet or not at home, they have a device that they can use. That was a 5-year rollout that we were planning. We ended up doing it in 3 months. And so every single one of our students and staff has an iPad now, and they can get on Zoom and they can learn. And what we found was it was very effective, but at the same time, it's very challenging. It still isn't the same, especially as you go from senior years all the way down to pre-K. You realize once you get kind of past high school, those students have a really tough time. Can you imagine kindergartner, first grader sitting in front of a screen for 6 hours, 7 hours trying to learn?
Yeah.
It does not work.
It's not. Yeah.
So, we made it work, and we've tried to make it work. And then we also started opening the schools up again and figuring out where we get funding for masks, for one of the cool devices that we have, and I'm a big fan of this, is we've got iPads that sit in front of every single building. And when you walk up to the iPad, there's a thing that measures your temperature, makes sure that you're wearing a mask, and it tells you whether you can go in the building or you can't. And so things like that, we've funded and had innovative things that have happened. And what's really interesting, and I've got to mention side hustles, because your season finale was about side hustles, and I enjoyed that. So those of you who haven't watched it, go watch the season finale. But someone who actually created that device or the app was actually someone who did it on a side hustle, and now that's their full-time gig, and they're multi-millionaires because they built a phenomenal business doing something.
That is really cool. Yeah. So what I've heard is Sugarland gives vouchers to go and patronize small businesses, and Stafford gives all of their kids breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and iPads. That's awesome. I mean, anyone who lives in Stafford and Sugarland, I wish I did now. I want to move now. I mean, it's so great to hear. But I mean, you're right. I mean, I'm glad that a side hustle can turn into something that's so beneficial for schools. Just having that as a measure of safety, for the schools for kids coming back to school, is really great. And of course, people that are just able to volunteer.